Captain Marcus Vale stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought Iron Resolve, watching the stars through the massive viewscreen. The ship cut through space like a blade, its dark hull bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the deep space patrol route that had become routine over the past 3 months. The silence broke when Communications Officer Lisa Park suddenly straightened in her chair. Her fingers flew over the control panel as strange signals filled her headset. The sounds were unlike anything in the human communication database, harsh clicks, mixed with what sounded like desperate pleading. "Captain, I'm receiving an emergency transmission on all frequencies," Lisa said, her voice tight with confusion. "It's encrypted, but the universal translator is picking up fragments. Someone is asking for help?" Marcus moved to her station, his boots echoing on the metal deck. The message played again, and this time the translator caught more words. The voice was deep and resonant, but it shook with fear that seemed impossible for such a powerful-sounding being. "Human fleet, this is Commander Thix of the Valerian Republic. We have heard stories of your kind, the ones who come from the death. Planet, we need your help. Something terrible has come to our worlds. They call themselves the Harvesters, and they consume everything. Our fleets are broken, our worlds burn, and our people die screaming. We beg you for sanctuary." The bridge fell silent. Elena Cray, the tactical officer, looked up from her weapons console with wide eyes. The Valerians were known across the galaxy as proud warriors who had never asked anyone for help. They were twice the size of humans with natural armor plating and strength that could crush steel. If they were begging for assistance, something was very wrong. "Sir, the Valerians have been radio silent for weeks," Elena reported. "Intelligence assumed they were dealing with internal conflicts, but this suggests something much worse." Engineer Dmitry Kozlov pulled up star charts on his screen. "The transmission is coming from the Valerian home system, but it's very weak. Whatever is happening there, it's interfering with their communications." Marcus studied the data scrolling across the displays. The Valerian Republic controlled 12 star systems and had one of the most advanced militaries in the galaxy. Their ships were built like flying fortresses, and their warriors trained from birth for combat. For them to be defeated so completely that they would call for help from humans, a species they had always considered primitive, meant they faced something beyond imagination. "Captain, there's more," Lisa said, adjusting her controls. "The signal is breaking up, but I'm getting coordinates. It looks like they want us to come to them." The message played again, and this time Commander Thix's voice was barely audible through the static. "The Harvesters adapt to everything we throw at them. Our weapons become useless within hours. They learn from each battle and grow stronger. We have heard rumors that your kind is different, that you come from a world so dangerous it shaped you into something unique. Please, if these stories are true, help us. We are dying." The transmission cut to silence, leaving only the hum of the ship's engines and the quiet beeping of instruments. Marcus felt his crew watching him, waiting for orders. Protocol demanded they report this to Earth Command and wait for instructions, but the desperation in the alien's voice suggested there was no time for proper channels. Elena spoke first. "Sir, we have no intelligence on these Harvesters. For all we know, this could be a trap. The Valerians have never worked with other species," Dmitry added. "They consider themselves superior to everyone else. For them to call humans for help means they're either desperate or this is some kind of elaborate deception." Marcus walked to the center of the bridge, his mind racing. The human fleet had been exploring this region of space for only 5 years, establishing trade routes and diplomatic contacts. Most alien species viewed humans as curious but unremarkable, tough survivors from a harsh planet, but nothing special compared to races with advanced technology or natural advantages. "Lisa, how long would it take to reach those coordinates?" he asked. "At maximum speed, 18 hours, sir. But we'd be going into completely unknown territory with no backup. And if we call for reinforcements? Earth Command would need at least 48 hours to approve and deploy additional ships. By then, if the Valerians are telling the truth, there might be nothing left to save." Marcus looked at the tactical display showing their current position. The Iron Resolve was part of a small patrol fleet, just 3 ships exploring the outer regions of known space. They had enough firepower to handle pirates or raiders, but if the Valerians with their superior technology had been defeated, what chance did humans have? "Sir, we're detecting debris fields on long-range sensors," Elena reported. "Multiple signatures consistent with Valerian ship components scattered throughout their home system. Something big happened there." The evidence was mounting that this was no deception. The proud Valerian Republic, with their massive fleets and warrior culture, had been broken by an enemy they called the Harvesters. Whatever these creatures were, they had accomplished something no other species had managed. They had humbled the most arrogant race in the galaxy. Marcus made his decision. "Set course for the Valerian home system, maximum speed. Send word to the other ships in our patrol group to follow. We go in ready for anything." "Sir, are you sure about this?" Dmitri asked. "If these harvesters defeated the Valerians, what makes you think we can do any better?" "Because we're human," Marcus replied, "and humans have survived worse than anything the galaxy has thrown at us so far. Our planet tried to kill us every day for millions of years, and we're still here. Maybe that counts for something." The ship's engines roared to life, pushing the Iron Resolve toward the unknown. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, Marcus wondered if he was leading his crew to their deaths. But the fear in Commander Thix's voice haunted him. Whatever the Harvesters were, they had done something that filled a proud warrior species. With terror. Hours passed as they traveled through the void. The ship's sensors reached out ahead of them, probing for signs of life or danger. What they found made the crew's blood run cold. The Valerian home system was dark, its planet silent. Where once there had been bustling trade routes and military patrols, now there was only debris and the faint glow of dying worlds. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission," Lisa announced. "It's very weak, but it's definitely Valerian." The message was broken and filled with static, but they could make out words. "Human ships, if you receive this, turn back. The Harvesters know you're coming. They've been waiting for you. This was all a trap to bring your kind here. They want to study you, to learn what makes you different. Don't let them take Earth's children too." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Marcus felt his heart pound as the implications sank in. The Harvesters hadn't just defeated the Valerians, they had used them as bait to lure humanity into a trap. "Sir, sensors are detecting massive energy signatures ahead," Elena reported, her voice tight with fear. "Multiple contacts, size and configuration unknown. They're moving toward us." Marcus gripped the command chair as the ship dropped out of faster-than-light speed. Through the view screen, he could see the Valerian homeworld, burning in the distance. But between them and the dying planet, something vast and terrible waited in the darkness of space. The Harvester ships emerged from the darkness like nightmares made real. They were not built like any vessel Marcus had ever seen. Instead of metal and technology, they appeared to be grown from some horrible combination of flesh and machine. Their hulls pulsed with veins of sickly light, and tentacle-like appendages writhed around weapon ports that seemed to breathe. "All ships, battle stations," Marcus ordered, his voice steady despite the fear crawling up his spine. "Elena, target the lead vessel and prepare to fire." The tactical officer's hands moved over her controls, but her readings made no sense. "Sir, I'm having trouble getting a lock." The ships seem to be changing shape constantly. Their hull configurations are shifting every few seconds. Admiral Rosa Hendricks appeared on the main screen, her weathered face grim with determination. The fleet commander had seen 40 years of space combat, but even she looked shaken by what they faced. "All vessels, this is Admiral Hendricks. We're looking at something completely outside our experience. Stay together and watch for patterns in their movement." The Harvester ships moved with fluid grace, their forms constantly shifting like living things. As the human fleet approached, the alien vessels began to circle them, studying their prey with terrible patience. Marcus could feel his crew's tension rising as they waited for the first attack. Captain, I'm detecting survivors on the planets. Surface, Communications Officer Lisa Park reported. Valerian emergency signals very faint. There are still people alive down there. Before Marcus could respond, the harvesters struck. Beams of energy unlike anything in human databases lanced out from the alien ships, striking the destroyer Valiant. The human vessel's shields flared and held, but the follow-up attack was different. The beams seemed to learn from the first impact, changing frequency and intensity to punch through the defenses. "They're adapting," Elena shouted over the sound of alarms. The second shot penetrated our sister ship's shields like they weren't there. The Valiant returned fire, its plasma cannons scoring direct hits on the nearest harvester. The alien ship's hull ruptured, spilling some kind of dark fluid into space. But even as they watched, the wounds began to close, the ship's living tissue regenerating at an impossible rate. "All ships, concentrate fire on the damaged vessel," Admiral Hendricks ordered. "Don't let it recover." The human fleet poured everything they had into the wounded harvester. Plasma bolts, missile salvos, and particle beams hammered the alien ship from all sides. For a moment, it seemed to work. The creature writhed in apparent agony, its hull cracking and bleeding. Then it began to change. The harvester's shape flowed like liquid, absorbing the damage and rebuilding itself into something new. When the transformation was complete, the ship was larger than before, its hull now covered in armor plating that perfectly matched human weapon frequencies. "It's not just healing," Dmitri said, his voice filled with horror. "It's evolving, learning from our attacks and making itself immune." The battle became a nightmare of adaptation and counter-adaptation. Every weapon the humans fired, every tactic they employed, the harvesters learned and countered within minutes. Worse, they began to copy human technology. Growing weapons that fired plasma identical to human designs, a weak transmission crackled through the communications array. "Human ships, this is Commander Thix. We are trapped on the planet's surface. The harvesters have been studying us for weeks, learning everything about our technology and biology. You must escape before they do the same to you." Marcus could see the battle turning against them. The harvester ships were now nearly identical to human vessels in capability, but they had the advantage of living hulls that could repair damage instantly. The destroyer Valiant was taking heavy fire, its shields failing under the relentless assault. "Admiral, we need to withdraw," he said into his communicator. "We're outmatched." "Agreed," Hendricks replied. "All ships fighting withdrawal. We'll regroup and find another way to help the survivors." But as the human fleet turned to flee, more harvester ships appeared from behind the planet's moon. They had been waiting, studying the humans' every move. The trap was complete. "Sir, they're jamming our faster-than-light drives," Elena reported. "We can't jump away." The harvesters closed in, their weapons now perfectly calibrated to human technology. The Valiant's shields collapsed completely, and the ship began to drift, its hull breached in dozens of places. Through the gaps, Marcus could see the harvester ships extending tentacles toward the disabled vessel. "They're not trying to destroy us," Lisa said, her voice filled with realization. "They're trying to capture us. They want to study us like they did the Valerians." A young Valerian voice broke through the static on the emergency channel. "Human ships? This is Pilot Keth. I'm in a damaged fighter near the planet's third moon. The harvesters don't just kill their enemies. They harvest them. They keep captives alive in their ships, studying them, learning from them. You cannot let them take you." Admiral Hendricks made a decision that would haunt Marcus for the rest of his life. "All ships ramming speed. We don't let these things learn from us. Better to die fighting than become their specimens." The human fleet charged the harvester vessels, intent on mutual destruction. But the alien ships simply moved aside, their living hulls flowing around the human vessels like water. Instead of ramming, the humans found themselves surrounded by writhing tentacles that began to probe their ships' hulls. "They're scanning us," Dmitri reported. "Taking readings of our technology, our biology, everything." Marcus felt despair wash over him. In minutes, the harvesters would know everything about human technology. They would adapt it, improve it, and use it against Earth itself. The proud human fleet had become nothing more than a source of information for an enemy that grew stronger with every battle. Then something unexpected happened. The harvester ships suddenly pulled back, their tentacles retracting. For a moment, Marcus hoped they had found some weakness in the alien strategy, but the truth was far worse. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures. Throughout the galaxy, Elena reported, dozens of harvester fleets, all moving toward Earth's coordinates. They're not just coming for us, they're coming for our entire species. An elderly Valerian voice joined the transmission, filled with sorrow. I am Morden, former science advisor to the Valerian Republic. The harvesters have been planning this for cycles. They needed to study human technology to perfect their assault on your homeworld. Your brave rescue attempt has given them everything they need. The human fleet drifted in space, surrounded by enemies that had learned their every secret. The harvesters had used the Valerians as bait, the rescue mission as a trap, and now they possessed all the information needed to destroy humanity itself. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the harvester fleet, Lisa said, her voice barely. A whisper. The message was in perfect human language, spoken by something that had learned to mimic their speech patterns. People of Earth, we have tasted your essence and found it. Curious, your species shows promise. Surrender your homeworld for study, and we will allow your colonies to survive. Resist, and we will consume everything you have ever built. Marcus looked at his crew, seeing his own despair reflected in their faces. They had come to save the Valerians, but instead they had doomed their own species. The harvesters now knew humanity's weaknesses, and they were already moving to exploit them. In the distance, the Valerian homeworld continued to burn, its surface stripped of all life. Soon, Earth would share the same fate, and it would be their fault for walking into a trap they should have seen coming. The emergency council aboard the flagship Prometheus was filled with desperate voices and worried faces. Representatives from every ship in the human fleet crowded around the holographic display showing Earth's solar system. Red markers indicated the approaching harvester fleets. Now just days away from humanity's homeworld, Admiral Rosa Hendricks stood at the center of the chaos, her weathered hands gripping the edge of the tactical table. We've sent warning messages to Earth Command, but there's not enough time to evacuate the colonies. 8 billion people are about to face an enemy that adapts to everything we throw at them. Captain Marcus Vale watched the display with growing dread. The harvester fleets were massive, hundreds of ships moving in perfect formation toward Earth. Each vessel was larger than anything humanity had ever built, and they all carried the adapted technology stolen from the failed rescue mission. Sir, we're still receiving weak transmissions from the Valerian survivors, Communications Officer Lisa Park reported. They're trying to tell us something about the harvesters, but the signal keeps breaking up. Dr. Amara Singh, the fleet's xenobiologist, hunched over her portable laboratory equipment. She had been studying the harvester scan data for hours, trying to understand how the aliens processed information. Her dark eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep, but her mind raced with possibilities. There's something wrong with their adaptation. Patterns, she muttered, pulling up genetic charts on her screen. They're too perfect, too systematic. Real evolution doesn't work like this. Marcus moved to her station, desperate for any hope. What do you mean, Doctor? Look at these readings, Dr. Singh said, pointing to the swirling patterns on her display. When the harvesters scanned our ships, they cataloged every piece of technology, every material, every design principle. But they processed it all according to logical, predictable patterns. They assumed our technology developed the same way theirs did. Elena Cray, the tactical officer, joined them at the workstation. Are you saying they misunderstood our equipment? Not. Misunderstood? They understood it perfectly? But they don't understand us? Dr. Singh pulled up a comparison chart showing human development patterns next to those of other species. Every other race in the galaxy evolved on worlds with stable environments. Their technology developed in logical steps, their biology followed predictable paths, but Earth is different. The doctor's fingers flew over her controls, bringing up images of Earth's surface, volcanoes, hurricanes, ice ages, asteroid impacts, a world that had tried to kill its inhabitants for millions of years. We call Earth a death world because it's so hostile that most alien species can't survive there. But that hostility created something unique in humans. Marcus felt a spark of hope. What kind of something? Chaos adaptation, Dr. Singh said. Every other species develops in response to consistent challenges. They evolve specific solutions to specific problems. But humans evolved on a world where the problems kept changing. We developed the ability to adapt to anything, to find solutions that shouldn't work but do. Commander Thix's voice crackled through the communications array, finally strong enough to understand. Human ships, can you hear me? The harvesters have been studying your technology, but they cannot understand your tactics. In the battle, you did things that made no sense to them. The Valerian commander's words were strained, but filled with something Marcus had never heard from the proud warrior race, admiration. Your admiral ordered a ramming attack when you were losing. This should have been suicide, but you turned it into a scanning opportunity? The harvesters expected logical responses to tactical situations. You gave them chaos. Dr. Singh nodded excitedly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The harvesters can adapt to any technology, any weapon, any strategy, as long as it follows predictable patterns. But human behavior is fundamentally unpredictable because we evolved to survive unpredictable situations. Lieutenant Jake Morrison, a young pilot who had been quietly listening, suddenly spoke up. Doctor, are you saying the harvesters can't adapt to us because we're too random? Not random, creatively chaotic. There's a difference. Dr. Singh brought up psychological profiles of the crew. Look at these decision-making patterns. When faced with impossible odds, humans don't just calculate the logical response. They improvise, they gamble, they do things that are simultaneously brilliant and insane. Admiral Hendricks had been listening to the conversation with growing interest. If this is true, it might explain why the harvesters wanted to study us specifically. They've conquered species with superior technology, but they've never faced an enemy that thinks like we do. A new voice joined the transmission, the elderly Valerian scientist Morden. Admiral Hendricks, I have been studying the harvesters for many cycles. They are not truly alive as we understand life. They are a collective intelligence that processes information through biological computers. This makes them incredibly efficient at learning and adapting, but it also makes them vulnerable to chaos. Vulnerable how? Marcus asked. They cannot process truly irrational decisions. When faced with behavior that doesn't fit their logical models, they freeze for crucial seconds while trying to understand. In those seconds, they are defenseless. Dr. Singh pulled up the battle recordings from their encounter with the harvesters. Look at this moment when Admiral Hendricks ordered the ramming attack. The harvester ships stopped moving for almost 30 seconds. They were trying to calculate why anyone would choose certain death over capture. Because they don't understand. Sacrifice, Elena said, understanding dawning in her voice. They're a collective intelligence that values efficiency above all else. The idea of dying for others is completely foreign to them. Marcus felt pieces clicking together in his mind. What about the other human traits they can't understand? Our ability to work together despite our differences, our tendency to help. Weaker species, our willingness to take risks that no logical being would take? All chaos factors, Dr. Singh confirmed. The harvesters have cataloged our technology, but they have no idea how to counter human creativity, human stubbornness, or human compassion. These traits developed on a world where cooperation and innovation were the only ways to survive. Young pilot Kef's voice joined the conversation from the planet's surface. The harvesters have been holding us in their ships, studying us for weeks, but they keep asking the same questions over and over. They cannot understand why we fought to the death defending our homeworld instead of surrendering logically. Because we're human, Marcus said simply. And humans don't give up even when logic says we should. Admiral Hendricks straightened her shoulders, and Marcus could see the legendary determination that had made her famous throughout the fleet. Dr. Singh, can we use this weakness against them? Can we turn our chaos into a weapon? I believe so, Dr. Singh replied. If we can coordinate our response with the surviving alien species, if we can act in ways that are simultaneously cooperative and unpredictable, we might be able to overwhelm their processing systems. The communications array crackled with new voices, dozens of alien survivors from different species, all trapped on harvester ships throughout the galaxy. They had been listening to the human conversation, and hope was spreading through their ranks. "This is Captain Rex Butler of the destroyer Defiant," came a new human voice. "My ship managed to avoid the harvester scans by hiding in an asteroid field. We've been watching their fleet movements, and there's something you need to know." The tactical display updated with new information. The harvester fleets weren't just heading for Earth. They were converging on the human homeworld from all directions, creating a perfect trap, but their formation was too perfect, too logical. "They're flying in mathematical patterns," Butler reported. "Every ship positioned according to optimal efficiency calculations. If we hit them with chaotic attack patterns, they might not be able to adapt fast enough." Marcus looked around the council chamber, seeing hope returning to the faces of his crew. The harvesters were powerful, but they had a weakness that only humanity could exploit. Earth's hostile environment had created the galaxy's greatest weapon, beings who could think and act outside the boundaries of logic. "All ships prepare for the most chaotic battle plan in human history," Admiral Hendricks announced. "We're going to show these harvesters what happens when you threaten a Deathworld species." The human fleet began to move toward Earth, but they weren't alone. Signals from across the galaxy indicated that alien survivors were breaking free from their captivity, inspired by the revelation that their captors could be defeated. The galaxy's most unlikely alliance was forming, led by the children of a world that had taught them to survive anything. The defense perimeter around Earth's solar system looked like a graveyard of stars. Massive harvester bioships hung in the void like diseased planets, their hulls pulsing with sickly light. Between them, smaller vessels moved in perfect formation, carrying the harvested remains of 43 different alien civilizations. Admiral Rosa Hendricks stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the alien fleet through the main view screen. The harvesters had positioned themselves just beyond the range of Earth's planetary defense systems, close enough to demonstrate their power but far enough to avoid immediate retaliation. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Harvester Command Ship," Communications Officer Lisa Park reported. Her voice was steady, but Marcus could see her hands trembling as she adjusted the controls. The main screen flickered and a figure appeared that made several crew members gasp in horror. The being looked almost human, but its skin was pale gray and covered in pulsing veins. Its eyes were solid black, reflecting no light, and when it spoke, its voice was a perfect imitation of human speech. "Admiral Hendricks of the Human Defense Fleet," the creature said, its lips moving slightly out of sync with its words. "I am the entity you might call the Harvester Prime. We have studied your species extensively, and we offer you a choice." The image changed, showing the interior of a harvester ship. Hundreds of alien beings hung suspended in crystalline pods, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. Marcus recognized Valerian warriors, crystalline beings from the Outer Rim, and dozens of other species that had vanished from galactic communications in recent months. "These specimens represent the finest examples of galactic civilization," the Harvester Prime continued. "We have preserved them as components for our great work. Your species possesses qualities that would complete our collection. Surrender your homeworld for study, and we will allow your colonies to survive. Resist, and we will harvest everything you have built." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Marcus felt his stomach turn as he realized the true scope of the harvester threat. This wasn't just about Earth. It was about the survival of every intelligent species in the galaxy. "Sir, we're detecting movement in the harvester fleet," Elena Cray reported from her tactical station. They're positioning ships around each of our major colonies. If we attack the main fleet, they'll destroy our settlements. Dr. Amara Singh looked up from her workstation, her face pale with exhaustion. Admiral, I've been analyzing the transmission. The Harvester Prime isn't just threatening us. It's trying to understand us. Every word, every gesture was calculated to provoke a specific response. What kind of response? Admiral Hendricks asked. They want us to act logically, to surrender, to save our colonies. But they're also prepared for us to fight back using conventional tactics. What they're not prepared for is something that falls between logic and chaos. Captain Rex Butler's voice crackled through the communication array from his position near the outer planets. Admiral, my reconnaissance team has identified something important. The Harvester ships aren't just carrying prisoners, they're carrying the entire technological and biological heritage of each conquered species. If we can free those ships, we might be able to turn this war around. Marcus studied the tactical display, seeing the impossible scope of the task before them. The Harvester fleet was massive, their ships defended by technology stolen from dozens of civilizations. But hidden within those vessels were survivors who might be willing to fight back if given the chance. Dr. Singh, how long would it take the Harvesters to process a completely irrational decision? He asked. Based on their previous behavior, anywhere from 30 seconds to several minutes, depending on how far outside their logical models the decision falls. A new voice joined the conversation, Commander Thix, transmitting from the surface of his devastated homeworld. Human ships, we have discovered something about the Harvester vessels. They are not just ships, they are living organisms that require constant feeding. If deprived of biological material for too long, they begin to consume their own stored specimens. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. They're not just preserving the aliens, they're keeping them alive to feed their ships. Exactly. Dr. Singh confirmed. The Harvesters have created a perfect biological system where conquered species serve as both specimens and sustenance. But that system has a weakness. It requires constant management to prevent the ships from consuming their own cargo. Admiral Hendricks began to pace, her mind working through the tactical possibilities. If we could disrupt their feeding systems, somehow force them to choose between maintaining their ships and preserving their specimens, they would choose their ships, Marcus finished. The specimens are replaceable, but the ships are their military power. Young pilot Keth's voice joined the transmission from inside a Harvester vessel. Humans, I have been studying our captors from within. Their ships are controlled by biological computers that follow rigid programming. If those computers were given contradictory instructions, they might shut down completely. What kind of contradictory instructions? Elena asked. Orders that violate their core programming. The Harvesters value efficiency above all else, but they also value the preservation of useful specimens. If they were forced to choose between destroying valuable captives and losing military advantage, their systems might crash. Lieutenant Jake Morrison, monitoring the long-range sensors, suddenly straightened in his chair. Sir, I'm detecting something strange. The Harvester ships are moving into new formations, but they're not following their usual mathematical patterns. It's like they're improvising. Dr. Singh pulled up the formation data on her screen, and her eyes widened. They're learning from us faster than we anticipated. The Harvesters are trying to incorporate human unpredictability into their tactical systems. That's impossible, Marcus said. You told us they can't process chaos. They can't process true chaos, but they can simulate it if they have enough data. The more they study us, the better they get at predicting our unpredictable behavior. The horrible truth began to sink in. The Harvesters weren't just using captured aliens as specimens. They were using them as teachers. Every day they spent in captivity, every reaction to their imprisonment, was giving the enemy more information about how to counter human tactics. Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command, Lisa reported. They're ordering U.S. to withdraw and regroup with the home fleet. Admiral Hendricks looked at the message with disgust. They want us to abandon the alien prisoners and fall back to Earth. They're willing to let 43 species die to protect our homeworld. Maybe that's the logical choice, Elena said quietly. If we can't save everyone, shouldn't we at least save our own people? Marcus felt the weight of the decision crushing down on him. The human fleet was outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy that grew stronger with every passing moment. The smart choice was to retreat, to preserve what they could and hope for a better opportunity later. But as he looked at the display, showing the Harvester prison ships, filled with beings who had trusted humanity to save them, he knew what choice he had to make. "Admiral, request permission to lead a rescue mission," he said. "We can't save everyone, but we can save some. And every alien we free is one less teacher for the Harvesters." "Granted," Hendricks replied without hesitation. "But Marcus, understand what you're asking. This isn't a military operation, it's a suicide mission. The Harvesters will adapt to whatever we throw at them within minutes. Then we'll have to be more chaotic than they can adapt to," Marcus said. "We'll have to do things that are so completely insane that even humans would call them impossible." The tactical display updated as the human fleet split into two groups. Half would stay to defend Earth, while the other half would attempt the most desperate rescue mission in galactic history. As they prepared to launch, messages began flooding in from across the galaxy, alien survivors who had been listening to their transmissions and were ready to fight back. "This is Morden, transmitting from Harvester Vessel Designation 77 Alpha," the elderly Valerian scientist announced. "The prisoners are ready to revolt when you arrive. We have been sabotaging their feeding systems from within." "This is Captain Zara of the Crystalline Collective, held in Vessel 12 Beta," came another voice. "We have identified the biological computers that control our ship. If you can create enough chaos outside, we can shut them down from inside." Marcus looked at his crew, seeing the same desperate determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. They were about to attempt something that violated every principle of military strategy, something that would either save the galaxy or doom it completely. "All ships, prepare for chaotic assault," he announced. "We're going to show the Harvesters what happens when you threaten someone a Deathworld species has sworn to protect." The human rescue fleet moved toward the Harvester prison ships, carrying the hopes and fears of every free being in the galaxy. Behind them, Earth's defense fleet prepared for the final battle that would determine whether humanity would survive or join the countless species already harvested by their relentless enemy. The rescue fleet moved through space like a pack of wolves, their formation constantly shifting in patterns that defied military logic. Captain Marcus Vale watched the tactical display as his ships wove between the massive Harvester vessels, their chaotic movements confusing the enemy's targeting systems. "Sir, the Harvester ships are trying to match our formation," Elena Cray reported, her voice tight with concentration. "But they can't predict our next move because we're not following any pattern." Engineer Dmitry Kozlov had discovered something crucial while analyzing the dying transmissions from captured Harvester vessels. "Captain, the biological computers controlling these ships are starting to malfunction. They're receiving so much contradictory data they're beginning to shut down." The truth was even worse than anyone had imagined. Through the fragmentary communications from alien scientist Morden, they learned that the Harvesters were not just conquering species, they were fleeing something. Deep in the void between galaxies, an even greater threat was approaching, something that consumed entire star systems without leaving a trace. "The Harvesters call it the Great Hunger," Morden's voice crackled through the communications array. "It is the reason they have been building the perfect organism. They believe that only by combining the best traits of all species can they create something capable of surviving what is coming." Dr. Amara Singh looked up from her laboratory equipment, her face pale with exhaustion and revelation. "That's why they needed us. Every other species they've conquered developed in logical patterns, but humans are different. We're the chaos factor they need to complete their perfect organism." The rescue operation was turning into something unprecedented in galactic history. As the human ships attacked the Harvester prison vessels, the captive aliens began fighting back from within. But they weren't fighting separately, they were working together, each species contributing their unique strengths to the battle. This is Commander Thix fighting from inside prison vessel Alpha 9. The Valerian warrior's voice boomed through the communications. The humans have shown us something we never understood. That strength comes not from perfection, but from cooperation. Young pilot Keth had managed to reach the bridge of his prison ship, working alongside captured engineers from 6 different species. Human ships were ready to take control of this vessel. The Harvesters never expected their specimens to work together. Their security systems can't handle coordinated resistance from multiple species. Marcus watched the battle unfold with growing amazement. The Harvester ships, designed to be perfect predators, were being overwhelmed by something they couldn't understand: genuine cooperation between species that had never worked together before. "Sir, the Harvesters are trying to adapt to our tactics," Elena reported. "But every time they adjust to one species' fighting style, another species changes the rules." Captain Rex Butler's voice joined the communications from the main battle near Earth. "All ships, the Harvester command vessel is moving toward the planet. They're trying to harvest Earth's population before their fleet collapses." Admiral Rosa Hendricks had been preparing for this moment since the battle began. The Prometheus and the remaining Earth defense fleet moved to intercept the massive Harvester command ship, but they were severely outnumbered. The enemy vessel was larger than anything humanity had ever faced, its hull bristling with weapons adapted from dozens of conquered civilizations. "All human ships, this is Admiral Hendricks," her voice carried across the galaxy to every human vessel. "The Harvesters think they understand us because they've studied our technology and our tactics. But they don't understand the one thing that makes us human: our willingness to sacrifice everything for others." The Admiral's plan was insane by any military standard. The Prometheus would ram the Harvester command ship, but not to destroy it, to board it. The crew would fight their way to the central processing core and destroy the biological computers that controlled the entire Harvester fleet. "Admiral, that's suicide," Marcus protested through the communications link. "The Harvester command ship is filled with processing organisms designed to break down any biological matter they encounter." "Then we'll have to be more stubborn than they can process," Hendricks replied. "Dmitri, can you jury-rig our ship's reactor to overload on command?" "Yes, sir, but the explosion will destroy everything within 100 kilometers, including us." "Good. That means the Harvesters won't be able to adapt to it." The Prometheus accelerated toward the Harvester command ship, its hull glowing with the heat of atmospheric entry. The enemy vessel tried to move aside, but Admiral Hendricks had anticipated their logical response. She fired all weapons at the space where the ship would be, forcing it back into the collision course. The 2 vessels struck with the force of a small moon, their hulls cracking and bleeding atmosphere into space. But instead of being destroyed, the Prometheus buried itself deep in the Harvester ship's living flesh, its crew fighting their way through corridors that pulsed with alien life. "This is Hendricks." The Admiral's voice was faint but determined. "We've reached the central core. The entire Harvester fleet is controlled from here, but there's something else. The perfect organism they've been building, it's not a weapon, it's an escape pod." The horrible truth became clear as the Admiral's team fought deeper into the ship. The Harvesters had been creating a single organism that contained the genetic and technological heritage of every species they had conquered. When the Great Hunger arrived, this organism would be launched into deep space, carrying the essence of galactic civilization to safety. "They're not trying to rule the galaxy," Dr. Singh realized. "They're trying to save it in the only way they understand, by preserving the best parts and abandoning the rest." But the Harvesters had made a fatal error. They had assumed that the best parts of each species could be combined logically, creating something greater than the sum of its parts. They had never considered that the chaos of natural cooperation might be more powerful than artificial perfection. "All ships, concentrate fire on the processing nodes," Marcus ordered. We're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for the right of every species to exist as they are, not as components in someone else's perfect design. The battle reached its climax as hundreds of freed alien vessels joined the fight alongside human ships. The Harvester fleet, designed to function as a single organism, began to collapse as its processing systems were overwhelmed by the sheer chaos of multi-species cooperation. "Admiral, the reactor is ready," Dmitri reported from the Prometheus. "But sir, if we detonate it now, we'll destroy the perfect organism along with the Harvester fleet. All those species they harvested, their genetic patterns will be lost forever." Admiral Hendricks looked at the massive bioconstruct that represented the combined heritage of 43 civilizations. It would have been the ultimate weapon against the approaching Great Hunger, but it was also the ultimate violation of everything those civilizations had stood for. "Then we'll have to find another way to face what's coming," she said. "We'll do it together, as we are, with all our flaws and chaos and beautiful imperfection." The explosion lit up the solar system like a new sun. The Harvester command ship and its perfect organism were destroyed instantly, and the death of the central processing core sent waves of confusion through the remaining fleet. Without their guiding intelligence, the Harvester ships began to drift, their biological systems shutting down one by one. In the aftermath, as rescue ships moved to collect survivors from both sides, Marcus found himself on the bridge of a captured Harvester vessel. Around him, beings from dozens of species worked together to convert the ship into a hospital for the wounded. The sight filled him with something he had never expected to feel after such devastation: hope. "Captain Vale," came a transmission from the surface of Earth. "This is President Martinez. The world wants to know, did we win?" Marcus looked at the alien beings working alongside his crew, at the former enemies who had become allies, at the vast network of cooperation that had emerged from the chaos of battle. The Harvesters were defeated, but the Great Hunger was still coming. Humanity and its new allies would face it together, not as a perfect organism, but as a chaotic, beautiful alliance of imperfect beings. "We didn't just win," he replied. "We became something better than perfect. We became ourselves." The galaxy had been saved not by superior technology or perfect strategy, but by the one thing the Harvesters could never understand: the power of different species choosing to work together despite their differences. Earth's Deathworld children had taught the galaxy that survival came not from becoming perfect, but from embracing the chaos of cooperation. As the first truly integrated galactic council convened aboard the captured Harvester vessels, with Earth serving as the capital of a new age of cooperation, Marcus knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The universe was vast and dangerous, but it was also full of allies who had learned that strength came not from perfection, but from the beautiful chaos of working together.